Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. Gonna go over the process of how to tie a little Kwan crab. Uh, we use these for redfish here down in the lagoon. Well, I use these for redfish here in the lagoon. Um, some really fun, easy materials that we're gonna use. EP Minnow Head. I've cut these in half. We're gonna be using Magnum cut Zonker. This is a black barred with like a ginger tan underneath, and your Grizzly Marabou feathers. Now to get this fly started, we're going to start on a 3407. We're going to tie in, you can use anything, bead chain, brass, lead, whatever you like. Sometimes I'll tie them with no weight at all in the front so that it actually will sit and kind of levitate a little bit. But I'm going to use brass today. This is what I've been using lately in the lagoon. It's been working really well. You're going to tie this brass in about, I don't know, more or less about the eye's worth away with the lead. And then you're going to wrap all the way to the back. Going to get to the back here. Right about where the hook point is where I let my thread hang. Next step is going to be a piece of Magnum cut rabbit Zonker. The biggest, most important thing on this whole fly is the placement, because everything else kind of builds off of that. I actually tie this in a little bit differently. Instead of tying it upside down or tying it from the bottom in, I actually tie it on the top, and I kind of judge roughly where it's going to penetrate with the hook, kind of poke it through so it stays steady, and you're going to wrap over that a few times to kind of keep it in place as you push it down. Actually, I take the whole thing off, and your hook is actually going to go through the actual Zonker itself. And as you bring it through, it should go pretty clean and easy. And then you just place it back in the vise and give it a couple more comfortable wraps so that that's been secured in. Next is going to be the Grizzly Marabou hackle. This you can use in a variety of different ways. I just like these little feathers. They're small, so it fits where I want it to be pretty comfortably in there without adding too much bulk to the fly. You're going to tie this in and then palmer that as close as you can to each other, keeping those pretty tight and kind of guiding that material backwards. It just adds as like a little mini buffer of material as you tie the rest of the fly in. A couple wraps in and it should be good. Once you secured that in, you can kind of play with it a little bit, pick it around where you want it to be. And the last but not least part of this fly is going to be the EP Minnow Head. This is kind of like a sandy copper color. You're going to tie that in right in front of where you left off with that little marabou piece. And then you're actually going to palmer this entire thing until you get to the front of the hook. I like to do this as tight as possible in here, and each time you're kind of picking those fibers out. The whole point is to kind of create a thick body rather than creating a body with X-Wraps or EP or laser dub or whatever. You got a wire brush, it's really easy to work with. You just palmer it, wrapping it over and over again. It's pretty user friendly, and you're going to do this all the way till you get to the back of those lead eyes or brass eyes, whichever you use. And then once you get there, you'll tie it off, and I'll show you a couple little tricks to how to trim. Each time you want to make sure you're getting the full potential of this material to kind of consistently lay out. So once you get there, you'll tie it off, give it a little quick cut, and tie this in with a couple X-wraps right over the front of the hook. Alright, now you really want to get this material evenly displaced on the hook itself, so it kind of, I use what a beard trimmer or a little mustache trimmer comes with, and you just kind of brush those fibers to kind of part them the where you want each one to kind of hang. On both sides I do that, so you're going to get a nice flat, even brushed out space. All right, once you get there, it's pretty equal. It's gonna look pretty flat there. I trim first by cutting the angle of which you can make this as thick or as thin as you want it, or as bushy as you want it. I kind of just go with the flow here, and I use a little bit of my scissors slash those eyes that I tie in to kind of gauge exactly how I cut this. Alright, so now we got our body pretty much set and done. Last thing I wanted to show was a quick, easy way to trim is old school beard trimmer, head trimmer, clippers, whatever you want to call them. Really simple. You just shave top and bottom. It actually perfectly cuts that fiber, and you have a nice even surface. So there we go. All said and done. You can fine tune things with your scissors after you've done that if there's a few fibers you've missed, but for the most part, pretty much takes care of it. And the last but not least piece is going to be your weed guard. That could be tied with just about anything you want. Right now I've been using a little bit bigger. It's a 60-pound fluorocarbon. You can use 40. I wouldn't go anything less than 40. You want it to be pretty stiff if you're tying weed guards in there. And good pair of pliers, mash it down on one side. You get a nice flat surface, and you can tie it straight on top of the hook, and it sits evenly, and you just kind of work it in there. Good to go. And last but not least, just trim that little weed guard for however tall you need it to be. Remember, you can always cut off more, but you can't add it once you cut it, so take your time with that spot. Come on. There we go. And end of the day, you have a sweet little fly. It's going to sink down. It's going to get to where you need it to go, and it looks good for the fish. Had a lot of good response with redfish with this fly, especially when you need it to go down a little bit more. You know, bead chain if you're fishing shallower water. If you're fishing about 1.5 feet, 2 foot of water, nice little lead eye will get it down there quick, and you know, create that little puff that you want in the mud or the grass, or you know, wherever you're fishing for them. But anyway, nice little fun new fly to add to the box if you don't already you know, have it filled. And tune in. We're going to keep this going. And check in on Mondays on the live stream on Instagram. It's Patrick_Gingras, my first and last name, just like this YouTube channel. And we'll see you then. All right, take it easy.